Three guests on the show today. Michael Giannetti from Spot Track. That's the correct pronunciation of the salary cap and player contract site. Michael Giannetti runs it. He's the founder of it. He was on my podcast with me yesterday. You will hear that in about 20 minutes. Sean Springs will join us at 11. And then Stanford Steve on Scott's Sports Center and also College Game Day. He will do a college preview with us at some point during this show. I do want to start the show, though, with a what do you got? So last night, I watched Venus Williams in the U.S. Open. Had no idea she was playing in the U.S. Open. I turned the U.S. Open on, and there was Venus Williams at 45 years old, playing in a first-round match, Arthur Ashe Stadium, in front of what looked like pretty much a sold-out crowd. And, by the way, plenty of big names, including Maria Sharapova, who was there, the Bryan brothers, the winningest men's doubles team in history. Kim Clijsters is a Hall of Famer. Mark Ein was there, one of the owners of our Washington football franchise. Mark's a big tennis guy, as most of you know, and he was sitting in the Williams box. But she became the oldest competitor at the U.S. Open, male or female, since 47-year-old Renee Richards in 1981. So some 44 years ago, there was a player playing at an older age than 45. But Venus Williams was out there, and I just didn't turn it off because it's Venus Williams. To me, the Williams sisters are way up on the list of the best sports stories of this century. And really, it started late last century because she made her debut at the U.S. Open at 16 years old, I believe, in 1997. And then Serena came on shortly thereafter. But the story of, King Richard Williams, and the development of his two daughters and the hustling around to get them the proper training, starting in, the public courts of Compton, California. It's such a great movie. It's such a great story. And by the way, almost everybody that has commented on that movie, which is now, 4 or 5 years old, has said it is almost to the, second accurate about Richard's development of his daughters, and then the daughters taking what they had been given. But there is something about the two of them. I've been a huge Serena fan during her career, always watched tennis, not because of Serena. I was a big tennis fan, but Serena is the one that kept me into it as I was sort of fading on a lot of the men's tennis. There's something incredibly classy and elegant and tough and purposeful and resilient about the Williams sisters, and you saw it on display last night with Venus at 45 years old, playing the number 13 woman in the world, Muhova from Czechoslovakia. She won the second set 6-2. This is after essentially a 16-month layoff, but about 3 weeks ago, she started to play again and work her way into what was a wild card entrant into the field. To me, people complain about, certain wild card entries into golf tournaments or tennis tournaments. Look, those sports are still sports that need to be marketed, and there's no better marketing opportunity than Venus Williams at 45 years of age on the biggest court at the U.S. Open. Man, she was crafty. The pace on her serve, she would go for it in a big way with her incredible athleticism and strength, even at 45 years old. And then she'd slice one in barely, into the ad court where it would kick and just bounce out. There's something about her that I find myself rooting for. She is not done. She is talking about a more significant comeback, although her press conference was pretty emotional. In fact, Max, you've got some of it, right? Why don't you play some of Venus from her post-match press conference last night?
you prove to yourself?
Oh, what did I prove to myself? I think for me, getting back on the court was about giving myself a chance to play more healthy. And when you play unhealthy, it's in your mind. It's not just how you feel, you get stuck in your mind too. It was nice to be freer.
She's had a lot of injuries, as most players and athletes have when they get into their 30s and now mid 40s. She said at one point, she said, there were shots I missed, those kind of shots about feel and less about training. And those are the kinds of things that I couldn't stave off today. I had a lot of returns. I was right there. And then she kind of threw up her hands because it was a sort of an alternately very emotional and at times borderline weepy press conference, and then a lot of laughter as well. She's got a very good sense of humor. Both of them do. And she just threw up her hands and laughed and said, but it wasn't really my fault. That's the best way I can put it, in a very tongue-in-cheek moment. Too bad she didn't win. I think there was a lot of people watching that match last night that thought, can you imagine if she pulls off an upset in the Mahova, Carolina Mahova was number 13 seeded, I believe, 11th ranked in the world, something like that. Or maybe it was 11th seeded, 13th ranked in the world. That actually makes more sense. But she was just younger and better at this point. But can you imagine had she pulled off the win? It would have been one of the great sports stories of the year if Venus Williams at 45 years old had won a match at a Grand Slam. She's a 7-time Grand Slam winner, 49 career titles, one of the greats, a Hall of Famer, and an incredible sort of presence last night at the U.S. Open, which needs it. It needs it. I think it does. I think tennis right now still, there's some excitement. I'm not suggesting that there isn't some excitement with, the likes of Alcaraz and still Djokovic out there pounding away. But it needed a storyline desperately, and it could have had one for a couple of more nights. But she just got beat by a better player who is right now in more game shape. Fun to watch Venus Williams last night. I think it's been really fun to follow their career and sort of understand their story, because it's an amazing one. All right. Man, yesterday was one of those days. God, man, social media is the worst. I'm going to read some of this stuff. This is from Eli. Kevin, admit it. You had it all wrong. $32 million a year, $30 million signing bonus means the guaranteed money is going to be $65 million or more. Terry and his nincompoop agent, LOL, won this negotiation by KO, as in knockout. From Don, Terry outlasted in the long battle. From Kenny, I'm sure Commando Kev will use his airtime today to lecture us on how Terry still doesn't deserve it. Terry's agent is an idiot for getting him what he wants, and how the front office are geniuses for dragging it out so Terry misses camp, but they gave him what he wants anyways. The agent that Sheehan and other radio experts repeatedly dragged through the mud, Commando Kev, owes them both an apology, but we all know Commando Kev never admits when he's wrong. Just don't call me Commando Kev anymore, Kenny, please. This from Ken, not Kenny. Kevin, I really was kind of neutral on Terry getting his money, but I thought about you when the news broke and about his contract. Now I guess you will spin it on the radio that you were always in favor of this outcome, LOL. You sports media people are so funny and mostly inaccurate. I could read another 6 dozen tweets and emails just like the 4 or 5 that I just read. Days like yesterday are interesting. I'm never surprised. I am always interested, curious, more so, maybe a bit mystified as to why some of you continue to kind of make the same mistake over and over again. Whether it was on Eric Bieniemy or Carson Wentz or Sam Howell, the list could go on, where you fire so quickly and so confidently when you just don't have enough of the information. I mean, was yesterday your first experience with contract news? You guys know what these initial reports are. The lack of detail, and many times they just end up being marketing pitches by agents. I mean, the biggest red flag on yesterday's announcement was what I said, as it came down, where's the guaranteed dollar number? That's rather important information. It's why you weren't going to hear me say what, guys like Ian asked me to say, which is just admit it. Just admit it. Terry won the deal. He and his agent crushed it. Why would anybody who has ever paid attention to the NFL and contract announcements admit yesterday or even this morning, because there are no guaranteed dollars out yet, that they know which side won the deal? We don't know at this point. We'll know when the details come out. Maybe later today, but they haven't come out. The agent side is out, and it is notable that the guaranteed money in the deal was missing from the agent's side. Real quickly, let me digress a bit. This from Jerry. Jerry writes, Kevin, it really doesn't matter who won the deal. Terry is in and will play this year. I don't understand the fascination with the deal details. The only thing that matters is Terry is back. There's no reason. And then he writes, there's no reason for you to apologize for being wrong. That was actually a good ending there, Jerry, because you mocked me, but you also, in a subtle way, mocked the people. And there are plenty of them out there who believe that anybody that cares about the deal now that it's done and the details of the deal, like who got the better of the deal, who won the deal, somehow that makes you, not a good fan or missing the big picture or not being able to move on. What are you talking about? I mean, come on. We've been talking about this thing for months. Like, this is, are you going to wait till the end of like a crime thriller, a whodunit, and just be satisfied with, oh, they told me they found him. They got him. He's in jail, without being interested in the details? Of course, the details are what most people are interested in. If you have a strong, first of all, there's just the idea that if you've got a strong opinion and you've taken a stance on something, you want to be right. That goes for you. That goes for me. And we will find out, here today. I mean, this is what sports fans, engage in. I don't get the oh, it's over. We don't need to talk about the details. Who cares? Because he's in. Well, of course he's in. And that's great news. But, more than one thing can be, discussed at a time. Like, you can want to be right about whatever opinion you had on the kind of deal that should be done for him, but also want the team and Terry to be happy that the long-term deal got done, and hopefully both sides are okay with it. I wanted that to happen, and I thought it would happen much sooner, of course. I thought it would happen before training camp. But Kenny, I think it was Kenny, hold on. Yeah, Kenny, when you said that I would spin it as if I was always in favor of this outcome, well, yeah, I actually was in favor of this outcome. Now, if you meant to say that I wasn't in favor of the team overpaying Terry, that's true. So I could be reading it incorrectly. If you're saying I wasn't in favor of, overpaying Terry, that I didn't want the team to go beyond, 50 to 60 tops on guaranteed, or 28, 27, 28, 29 per year. Yeah, that's true. So if that's what you meant, that is probably true, because anything above 60 and guaranteed for me would be a bad precedent to set. And Terry obviously wanted a lot more than 60 guaranteed. I don't know if you saw some of Ben's reporting, or even Diana Rossini's reporting, that he was actually asking for, basically just below Jamar Chase initially. But I definitely wanted a deal done, and I always thought a deal would get done. I think I said that about 1,000 times during the last few months. I just didn't want the team to overpay him. That's true. But at this point, though, we don't know the details. We don't know if the team caved, or if Terry caved, or if both caved, or both, putting it in a nicer light for those of you who don't like to discuss the details of contracts. They had a nice meeting somewhere in the middle. That's possible too. I can tell you this. If the deal is as one-sided in Terry's favor as some of you believe it is, I think the agent would have said that. He would have given not only the years and the overall potential value up to $96 million, he would have provided information on the guaranteed money. Him not doing that is, I'm sure, the reason why you've seen many reporters reluctant, in terms of those who are covering this very closely, reluctant to sort of declare one side having gotten the better of the deal, because we don't know the details. When we get the details of the deal, I think if the guaranteed money's over 60, Terry and his agent did very well and they won the deal. I would say that anything between 55 and 60 in guaranteed money, call it a draw. Anything less than 55, team got what they wanted. Ian and I have a bit of a bet on DM. I basically said, and anything more than 60, Terry won. He took that. Anything less than 60, the team won. But I would say, thinking about it, anything guaranteed between 55 and 60 is kind of both of them finding a middle ground. Anything less than 55 is a big cave by Terry. Anything more than 60 is a big cave by the team. I think the structure as it relates to how much the team owes after a year or two is a big tell on the deal as well. We'll find out that. If there's guaranteed money beyond 2026, big win for Terry. If, there isn't a lot of sort of incentive earn out, that's a big win for Terry. If the team can get out sooner, better for them. There's a lot of detail. The guaranteed money is the big tell more than anything else. But I'm going to reserve the right to wait for the actual details of the deal itself before admitting, hey, I was off on this one. Anyway, Terry and Adam Peters will speak tomorrow. Adam Peters will address the media, and then Terry's going to talk after practice. And look, yes, the good news is Terry presumably, knock on wood, will be there and will be happy and feel appreciated and feel respected, and feel like the team acknowledged what he believes he is. I hope that is how it comes together, because I've always wanted a deal. I always thought it would happen, because it's just better in this window with Jaden on a rookie deal that we've got Terry under contract for at least this year and next, to take advantage of Jaden's rookie deal. And look, the bottom line is, man, this team has a chance. I was on a radio show this morning, the show that Denton produces now on the Bet QL network. And one of the hosts, Michael Jenkins, was one of the hosts, but the female host, and I'm sorry, I forget her name. She said, what do you think the best case scenario is for Washington this year? And I said, the Super Bowl. They have the best quarterback in the NFC. I guess you could argue Matt Stafford if you want, or Jared Goff, or Jalen Hurts. I think they're all excellent quarterbacks. I don't think they're Jaden Daniels. And if you've got the best quarterback in the NFC, and in an era where offense typically is more important, that didn't used to be the case. The best case is Super Bowl. And Terry was going to play regardless of extension or no extension. But having Terry and having him, have the opportunity to ramp up in kind of a much more positive atmosphere. Let's hope that, some of the concerns from some of you about, soft tissue injuries and the things that you sometimes see when players report late. Let's hope that he's healthy. I think we've got enough time, enough of a ramp-up time. He's now 10 days off the PUP list. He's got another, at this point, 5, 7, 12 days until the opener. And really out of those, 8 real practice opportunities. But that's a lot. And Terry's smart. We know that. So he's been, basically gathering what has been going on, whatever's new. But with him out there, in the right kind of atmosphere, contract extension, feeling good, no threat of, potentially him being unprofessional at any point, which I never thought was a possibility. Debo in shape, a revamped and upgraded offensive line, year 2 in this system. Man, as long as 5 is upright and healthy, this should be a dynamic offensive football team. Defense is the mystery. Defense is the question mark. But I could tell in my answer that both hosts were like, whoa. And I'm like, look, you got to understand. This is, from somebody who hasn't thought much for basically 20 years about a season going into a season. Maybe it's not objective, but I certainly think you can make the argument that they've got the best quarterback and the best offense in the NFC. Maybe it's Detroit. The question comes down to defense. There's no doubt. Like, are they better on defense? Do they have to be a lot better on defense? Maybe not, but they got to be better to win double-digit games and have a chance to advance. Although I said something the other day, and I'm looking for what my buddy Steve sent me. I said something the other day. It's like, with Jaden at quarterback, he's already proven that he's got that clutch gene. And we saw it in 2 different playoff games on the road. You just got to get into the tournament. You just got to get into the dance. With Jaden Daniels at quarterback, no team is going to want to see him come in January to their building. Just get in. I will have my season prediction next week in the build-up to week 1. I'll give you my season prediction and give you guys a chance to do the same. I'm not backing off here at all. I think as long as he's on the field with the players that he will have around him on offense and that coordinator in year 2, I definitely will be talking double-digit wins and the playoffs again. I think it's going to be interesting, the rest of the conference. It certainly looks deep, but what will Detroit be without their 2 coordinators? What will Ben Johnson be able to accomplish with Caleb Williams in year 1? Does Green Bay bounce back? Is Philly even better and more consistent in the regular season than they were last year? What are the Rams if Matt Stafford is healthy? What are the 49ers if their overall roster is healthy? What's Tampa now that they may have health on defense? It's a loaded conference, and there are going to be some incredible games on the schedule, incredible buildups on the schedule. I certainly hope so. But, just starting week 2 with the Packers, going out to LA to face the Chargers in week 5, that back-to-back Cowboys on the road, Chiefs on Monday night, the Lions at home, the Dolphins in Madrid, the matchup with Bo Nix on a Sunday night. At Minnesota, we'll see what the Vikings are this year. And then at the end of the year, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. But really, the Eagles twice in 3 weeks. This has a chance to be the highest profile season in many of your lifetimes. And can't wait for it to start. We're getting closer. Real college football, too, this weekend. We'll get to that with Stanford Steve. And Denton's going to be on the show tomorrow with us to talk some college football. In fact, Denton will be a weekly visitor on the show to do the same college football segment that we did last year. All right, when we come back, I want you to hear what Spot Track's owner, founder, and editor, Michael Giannetti, what his initial instincts were upon hearing the news and what was reported yesterday about the deal for Terry McLaurin. That's next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. on Twitter. Thank you. My best friend Kevin dressed me down on a group text for caring so much about the deal. Curious is so much better than judgmental. See Ted Lasso. Yes, it's a really great scene in Ted Lasso during darts. How about just the idea of being interested to see how the organization handles contracts like Terry's? Of course. I mean, but it's beyond that. I mean, if we're being, honest, it's the emotion. It's the wanting to see what it is, see how close you were. And it's what we've been talking about for all these months. How many calls were people, I really think it's between 26 and 28 or 30 and 32 with this much guarantee. And then all of a sudden it happens and you're not interested? It makes no sense to me. But I think for some people, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's like they're on some sort of performative kind of, hey, this sounds cool to be kind of above the fray. I don't know. I'm interested, so I guess I'm much below the fray. So I had Michael Giannetti from Spot Track. Spot Rack, I used to call it. It's wrong. It's Spot Track. Is the site that, monitors and has all the details on player contracts, cap, information, etc. And the deal had just been, reported on for a few hours. The 3 years up to 96 million, etc., with 30 million in signing bonus. And I asked Michael, what are your initial thoughts? And is it important to kind of understand more than what's just been reported on this deal?
Yeah, the latter, the most important here, right, is we don't necessarily have nearly enough guts to fully assess this thing. And it's probably not a great sign that we don't know the guaranteed number just yet. And hopefully that comes out here soon. But look, we know enough to know that he's happy. He's going to be suiting back up. And that's obviously step one. The $96 million assessment, right, over 3 years of new is certainly what the agent's been pushing for here. He wanted to be in that DK Metcalf conversation, certainly wanted to be ahead of all the WR2s in the league. So you understand the number being there. But look, we'll see what this thing looks like over the next 2 years. We're hearing a $30 million signing bonus. That's very good news for this year because just on its surface, Kevin, that means minimum salary, the roster bonus he's already been paid, plus this signing bonus. He's in $34-35 million range for 2025 alone. So, $15 to $18 million pay raise this year. That's pretty good for step one. Now we've got to learn about 2026 and make sure that's fully guaranteed. Or this could very well be a 1 for 35, and he's walking the door in March.
What do you think it'll be? Do you have a hunch?
I got to tell you, that when I saw the numbers initially, even though these are surface numbers, my gut instinct, having done this now for so long, was, man, if he's getting that much this year, there's a really good chance that this is a one and done scenario, that he is probably not guaranteed next year. Now, look, he can play himself into year 2 and year 3, no question about it. But I have a feeling that the concession that came from Terry McLaurin is I'll front load myself a bunch of cash this year, but I'm going to give in to the point where Washington can still get out of this thing in 2026. So we'll see if it gets there. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping this is a fully guaranteed 2-year contract on its surface, but my gut instinct says it could be a 1 for 35.
So when you view it on the best case for him, you view it as like a 2-year guarantee deal. What would that guarantee equal?
Yeah, fair market value, and what I kind of put out last week was 2 for 50.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can front load that at 30 and bring it down a little bit when he's 31 years old next year. Obviously now knowing what we know here with some of these early numbers, 2 for 60 is probably the fair market. You want to be on a $30 million per year pace with your guarantees because of the going rates of these wide receiver contracts. So anything under that 60 mark, I think is probably a player concession. But like I said, I'm concerned that there's nothing after 30 at this point in time.
Interesting. Well, we'll find out, I guess, soon enough. How quickly do we usually find out? Doesn't this deal have to be reported by the team and the agent to, you end up with all of the details of all of these contracts. Typically, what is the time frame before we learn exactly what this deal is?
Yeah, generally speaking, we know a little bit more than we do right now, and this is about an hour now past where we've been when you and I are talking here, Kevin. So it's a little late today. The league will probably process this thing at 4 p.m. Eastern today. We'll start to hear more information tomorrow morning, I would guess, and then within 72 hours, because this is obviously a busy NFL time here with cutdowns, we'll know the full guts of this thing. But we should know within the next 24 hours just how strong the guarantees are over the course of the next two seasons.
Yeah. So the wide receiver market, and the first thing you said is, at least the AAV puts him in number one wide receiver territory, meaning away from T. Higgins, as an example. And I think that's the best example, right, of the number twos, that he's got the biggest number two deal in the league, I think, per Spot Track at 28.75 million a year. Why is that so important for the agent when really it's about where you are on the list of wide receivers, I would think, because Higgins just happens to play next to the best wide receiver in the league?
Yeah, there's no question. Look, this is just one of those posturing moves that agents still love to take, which is, building out their own top 15, top 20 list, just like we all do, and, fans and media and kind of left and right, up and down. But there's just a hierarchy that has to exist. And when you're talking about usage rate and things like that, I know that you deal in the basketball world. That's a big term in the football world as well.
Yeah.
If you're out kicking your coverage, right? If your targets as a wide receiver are in the WR1 range, regardless of what your overall production looks like, there's a conversation to be had about being compensated fairly, and that's certainly been McLaurin's case, not only in 2024, which was his biggest usage year ever, but certainly going back the 5-6 years that he's been with the franchise.
Real quickly, not to spend a lot of time going backwards, but how did you arrive at what you tweeted out the other day as fair market value for Terry?
Yeah, so we go off a 2-year production plan, right? And we take that 2-year production and we match it. We kind of algorithmically AI match it with 4 other wide receivers that had very similar production in the 2 years leading up to their big wide receiver extension. So a lot of it happens behind the scenes, but the mathematically speaking, Terry McLaurin's about a $27.5, $28 million per year wide receiver just on its surface. And that's obviously with age being a part of it too. That's a factor that we take into consideration here. So, it's hovering right around that top WR2 number in terms of fair market. And oh, by the way, the 96 million plus the 19 and change that he was already going to make from his previous contract, you do that over 4 years and you're at 28 million a year. So you can understand how these numbers all kind of come together, Kevin, but any way the agent can sell it as top billing, he's going to do it. And I think that's what we're seeing here in a pretty nice performance from Buddy Baker out there.
So is that really how you're viewing it? I mean, I want to cut to the chase here. It sounds to me like maybe you feel like the team's letting the agent have his day today.
There's no question. Generally speaking, we see it from both sides fairly quickly. The Adam Schefters, the Rap Sheets of the world, they get their information from both sides. You see 2 different facsimile versions are sent out, and we're just not seeing that Washington side yet. And that could just be that they're busy because there's 40 people to cut on every roster right now. It could also be that the agent has jumped the gun a little bit here, and he's just trying to make sure that the world knows that McLaurin is not in the same boat as these other hold-in players that are heading towards the final week of the offseason here without a contract. So we'll get some more information quickly, but it's great news. This is not a situation I thought we'd get to. I'm gonna be honest with that. I thought for sure that Washington had put their foot down. They were not going to budge, and that this was not going to be a situation that was going to be rectified in 2025. So it's excellent news on that front.
Very good. Real quickly, while I have you on, tell me what your thoughts are on Micah Parsons and whether or not they get something done before the season starts in Dallas.
Ooh, I'm going to need a soapbox here, Kevin.
Okay.
This one's tough. No, this one's tough. It's you got to come at it from both sides. If Dallas wants to get this done at this point in time, and I realize we've seen this story quite a bit, they're going to have to go into a different stratosphere. So if this thing was 38 to 40 million a year in February when the napkin offer was written to them, it's $45 million a year in terms of an average salary, a new average salary. It's just where we have to be. Myles Garrett didn't even really whine that much and got $40 million from the Cleveland Browns. And the Micah Parsons scenario from an age perspective, a production perspective, is just markedly better than that. So you're going to have to blow him away, I think, to even get him off of that training table, and listening to an offer right now. And especially because I'm pretty sure his agent has all but blocked Jerry Jones' phone number at this point in time. So the number is going to have to be absurd if we're talking about a brand new extension. Outside of that, from the player's perspective, Kevin, I'm not sure I'm picking up that phone. I really am not. I think I don't know if Micah Parsons is going to show up for week one. We'll see how that works in terms of a hold-in versus a holdout, and if he starts losing money. But I really do think this is a scenario where Micah Parsons and the agent have come together and said, we're going to be the ones that put our foot down and keep it down with this organization. And if that gets to a trade, so be it. Otherwise, this could be quite the story for the next at least 6 to 7 weeks before we start talking about.
That was Michael Giannetti from yesterday, shortly after the news broke. A lot of experience in contracts. Talked to an agent who said sort of the same thing, major red flag that there wasn't more information specific to the guaranteed dollars. But who knows? We'll find out. I mean, I can be patient, and hopefully some of you can be patient before sort of assessing the deal. There's more than just who won or who lost. There is, how did the team handle this? We may look back and say, wow, it was a waste of time. I have a feeling that's not really going to be the narrative, regardless of, what looks like the winner of the deal or the loser of the deal, or maybe both won or both lost a little bit, which usually makes for the best deals. The reporting now is pretty concrete, including Ben Standig and Diana Rossini. Diana Rossini said in her on a podcast that the initial ask wasn't just above Justin Jefferson. It was at Jamar Chase territory. He wanted to be paid as the number one, worst case, number two receiver in the league. And the reason I say that is for those that would say it should have been done months ago. Well, if they started Terry and his agent at well north of $35 million per year, which, by the way, I've also heard well north of like $70 million in guaranteed money, approaching sort of Jefferson and Chase money. That's like that's like $100 million plus in guaranteed money. He was probably initially looking for $80 million in guaranteed money. Ben reported that $25 million was the first offer from Washington. That is a huge difference. That's why it didn't happen quickly. 41 to 25 or 40 to 25, or even if it was just barely over Justin Jefferson, 36 and 25, you're talking about 11 million in AAV times, let's just call it a 3-year extension. That's $33 million worth of difference in the actual value of on an annual basis. And it's probably the difference in $20 to $30 million of guaranteed money. That's why it took so long. That is the most reasonable answer as to why it took so long. It's because they both started so far apart. And then there were feelings and emotions involved, as there often is. Hard not to have them, but best to realize what they are, because they typically are not necessarily good deal makers like they are war starters. But anyway, interesting thoughts from a guy with a lot of experience. But again, he could be wrong. A lot of the people who have said the silence on the guaranteed dollars is deafening had an agent tell me major red flag. In fact, I'll read the text to you. Where is it? Yeah, red flag. The lack of details, a red flag. Biggest indicator is that it's not as perceived was the report that it's up to. The up to was a big red flag for agents anyway. By the way, I also saw it reported as 96 or maybe more than 96. We just don't know. We will know. Maybe later today. I would say worst case tomorrow, because tomorrow Adam Peters is scheduled to speak. Terry's not having a press conference. I don't think he wanted one. He, had that with his last big signing in 2022, but he is scheduled to meet the media after practice. I don't know if that's a, podium deal or if that will be sort of, everybody gathered around him. We'll see. But he's scheduled to talk after practice tomorrow. The good news is he'll be at practice. I think he was going to be at practice anyway. And we hope that it is in the best of environments now for him and the team moving forward. This was a tweet from Mike. Mike, a different view, he writes, Kevin. Jaden Daniels won this deal. He's elite under a rookie contract, and they didn't want to waste any momentum and time. The deal needed to be made if the push was in view. Glad it got done on all sides. Yeah, I agree. I think he was going to have to play one way or the other, but this is a much better way to play, for sure. Let me just be very clear about something. If we do learn that the details are Terry and his agent crushed the team in this deal and the team really caved, I don't think that will be something that will be ignored, not by me anyway. And this is going to be our first experience with Adam Peters and a negotiation with a big name player for a big dollar contract. And it's very important that you have super sharp people in your front office understanding the short term and also understanding the long-term consequences to these deals. And my sense is that Adam Peters is sharp and that the team around him, Lance Newmark and company, sharp, and that I'd like to think that they didn't get taken to the cleaners and cave, a week and a half before, 2 weeks before the season started. But we'll know that later on. It's possible that they did. Anything's possible right now. Anything is possible, said Kevin Garnett once, long ago. Sean Springs is going to join us at 11 a.m. There was NFL news yesterday, including Trey Hendrickson. Deadlines are getting closer to deadlines to make deals. Well, they got one done in Cincinnati. And there is a quarterback on the market that might make for a really good backup quarterback if Marcus Mariota isn't ready to go in the opener. We'll talk about him when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Don't forget, you can watch us on the Team 980's YouTube page. Please hit the like button when you get to that 980 YouTube page and hit the subscribe button as well.
All right, here's what's happening on this Tuesday, August 26th. Two of the NFL's biggest holdouts ended yesterday. First, as we all know, with Terry McLaurin signing his 3-year, $96 million extension to remain in Washington. Then, Trey Hendrickson and his camp came to a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals to play out this year with a $14 million pay bump. He's now set to make $30 million this season. And loads of movement around the NFL as we rapidly approach the 4 p.m. cut deadline. The Raiders are very active yesterday as they traded for quarterback Kenny Pickett and signed Amari Cooper to a 1-year deal. Running back Audric Estime was waived by the Broncos, and the Giants have released or are releasing quarterback Tommy DeVito, and longtime NFL tackle Dan Skipper was released by the Lions. The Commanders have released linebacker Duke Riley, corner Asong Bassi, defensive tackle Norrell Pollard, center Nick Harris, tackle Tyree Phillips, and wide receivers Braylon Sanders and Michael Gallup. The Nats, they lose to the Yankees by a score of 10-5 last night. Tough night for Brad Lord as he goes 4 1/3 innings, giving up 7 runs on 8 hits. Cam Schlittler had a phenomenal night, throwing 6 scoreless innings, including 8 strikeouts. The Nats will reset versus the Yankees tonight. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
So today is cut down day, 2:53 by 4 p.m. Eastern. Keep it here on the Team 980 all day long, and we will keep you posted on the cuts. They cut 6 players yesterday. The cornerback Bassey that they had just brought in and signed after a bunch of workouts about a week and a half ago. Michael Gallup got released. Center Nick Harris, the tackle Phillips, the D tackle Pollard, and the wide receiver Braylon Sanders were released yesterday. Today, cornerback Bobby Price was released, and I think Keim just had another one. Is Duke Riley? Did they release Duke Riley?
They have. Duke Riley
Okay.
he was one of the ones announced this morning as well.
Okay, so I think that the guy number 51 that I've liked the last 2 weeks,
I think Ollie's on the roster.
I think Cahill is going to make the roster.
Guy flies around. He's got ties to Ken Norton. I mean, it's all, the signs are all there.
What you mean, because of UCLA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So does Medrano.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Real quickly, before I get to some of the other NFL news, I watched after the Venus match last night, I watched the first 3 episodes of this Cowboys Netflix thing.
Oh, boy. I can't wait to hear about this.
It is so good. And I've got a new perspective on Jerry Jones. I mean, this guy he's just the, incredibly tough and resilient serial entrepreneur. And he was a hustler. He came from a blue-collar upbringing. His father owned a grocery store. They lived above it. He worked it. He had so many different jobs, started so many different businesses, and then got into the oil business. And that's what basically, he was $50 million in debt and hit a big gusher, and that started his ascent into being able to be a legitimate player for the Dallas Cowboys. There's also a story in there where he almost was backed by Jimmy Hoffa and the Mafia in an attempt to buy the then AFL Chargers, and his father talked him out of it. He said, "What happens when you don't pay them for the first time?" And he said he was crushed, but his father was obviously right. There's some really good stuff on the Washington-Dallas 1991 regular season game at RFK, where the Skins were 11-0, looking to be, the 72 Dolphins, and the Cowboys came in and ended the Washington attempt at a perfect season. And this was a significant game for those Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, Troy Emmett, Michael Irvin Cowboys. To go into RFK and beat the team that was the best team in the NFL, it was like the first time they started to believe, and they ended up making the playoffs that year. And real quickly, because I do remember this, I didn't remember to the extent that Steve Berline and Troy Aikman were going, when Aikman became healthy, the controversy at the end of the year. But Berline came in and finished that game when Aikman got hurt at RFK. Berline ran the table as the starter the rest of the way. Aikman was healthy for the playoff game against the Bears in the wild card round. And at first, Jimmy essentially gave Troy indication that he was going to start the game, but he started Berline, and Berline won. And then it was the Detroit game in the divisional round, and the Lions blasted the Cowboys 31-3, I think, or 31-10, and then came to RFK for the NFC Championship game. But I didn't remember the controversy of Aikman and Berline when Aikman got healthy. It makes sense. Really well done, like all these Netflix things. I think it was G from the shop who said, "You're going to need to watch this. Forget how we feel about the Cowboys. It's good." And I don't even think I've gotten to the good stuff yet. I haven't gotten to the White House. I haven't gotten to all the shenanigans as they started to win Super Bowls. Looking forward to that. Yesterday, after Terry's announcement, Trey Hendrickson ended his hold-in. He's going to get a $14 million one-year raise from the Bengals, boosting his 2025 salary up to $30 million. He's got some incentives in there as well. But This allows him, with no ability next year, franchise tag wise. I guess the franchise tag was negotiated into it. Hendrickson can become an unrestricted free agent after this year. So next year's offseason, there will be a chase for a 31-year-old pass rusher if he has another big year for the Bengals. Man, the Bengals are going to be an interesting NFL story this year. Like Washington, loaded on offense, explosive on offense, going to be hard to slow down and stop on offense, but what will their defense be? And they're in a division with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. No one wanted to see them had they made the postseason last year. How about this? The Giants released Tommy DeVito. And this morning on ESPN, there was like the breaking news moniker. Giants released Tommy DeVito. And I'm thinking to myself, that qualifies as breaking news? But you know what? DeVito has started like 14 games in the NFL, and he's played well when he's had the opportunity to start, including, by the way, if you recall, back in 2023 here when he beat Washington and threw like 3 or 4 touchdown passes. I'm looking up I think this may have been his best game. November 19th, 2023, came in, beat Washington 31-19. He was 18 of 26 for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks in the game. If Washington has an issue with Marcus Mariota, we'll find out here in the next week, I'm sure. I can't imagine Hartman's going to be kept. I would imagine that Josh Johnson's going to be kept at least for the time being. But would they go out and sign somebody else? Jeff Driscoll's still out there to be the backup, at least early on, until Mariota's healthy. This NFL Talk on the Team 980 presented by Paramount Plus. You can count on much. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Sean Springs next. scheduled to join us right now. Had Smoot on the show, I guess, last week or the week before. Smoot said Sean Springs is a big Trey Amos believer. Washington released KJ Osborne. So Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne released. Does that mean 16 Ja'Cory Brooks is going to make the team? I think it does, right? I don't know. It could be Tay Martin. Could be, because it's going to be Terry, Noah, Brown, Debo, Jalen Lane, 4. I think 5 will be McCaffrey. If they keep 6, you think it'll be Brooks? I like Brooks.
I like him
I think
too.
He looks like a pro.
I agree.
Do we have Sean?
We sure do.
Good. One of my favorite people to have on this show over the years is Sean Springs, who was clearly one of the best players during some of the down years, even though some of his years here in Washington were productive years with Coach Joe at the helm. Sean has been doing, I know you've been out at camp observing, because Smoot was on with me last week and said, if you want to talk to somebody about Trey Amos, I don't see Sean get very excited about people very often, but he is pumped about Trey Amos. And I said, yeah, you know, typically you'll get really upset or really animated when the team that you like isn't doing the things that you think it should be doing. So did they get it right with Trey Amos? But more importantly, how do you know this early?
Oh, man. Hey, thanks for having me on.
You know
start
I
of
love
the
having
season.
you on.
I know we usually get in trouble too, but we're in a good space this year, man. We're not gonna get in trouble.
Right.
Hey, Trey Amos, man. The reason is for a cornerback or any position, usually a skill position in the NFL. You know, when they go from college and they're great players, and then they go to the NFL, the game is a little. Sometimes it might not be the speed of the game that can get a player, but sometimes it's the amount of information. They're thinking too much. They're not moving full speed, or they're moving too fast, out of control, or just not themselves. When I see Trey, it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm looking at this kid, and I'm just like, he looks like he's been in the league for 10 years. He's patient at the line of scrimmage. Every receiver in camp, obviously like Terry, he jammed every receiver. He was under control. He could run with them. I mean, he just was excellent, man. I mean, there's a very few corners I've seen in a game that just look like they've been there. Usually they have a pedigree or something. Like Patrick Surtain is one that comes to mind. Like he came into the league and he was already a 50-year pro, right? Trey Amos looks like that, and I'm just impressed.
So you mentioned something like patience. Like there is like a calmness, like a confidence, a poise that you've noticed in addition to the physical part?
All of that. That the physical part, there's a lot of guys that are physically capable of doing a job. But when you see a guy who goes up and he communicates, he's talking, and then he gets up in front of the receiver, he's not look like he's rushing, or he's in basketball they talk about like you get sped up, right? You watch college basketball compared to NFL up to the NBA. The NBA guys look like they're just moving so slow, under control, know where they're going. Same in the NFL, right? Especially the skill position. They don't look sped up. They look under control. Look like they've done it. They take the right angles. They take the right. Their footwork is excellent, and you just can tell right away with that guy.
Interesting. When you talked about basketball, one of my favorite players to watch over the last 10, 12 years, because you cannot speed him up, and he plays methodically, and he plays at a pace that is very unique, is DeMar DeRozan. Like DeMar DeRozan just gets to his spot. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, urgent. There's nothing abrupt. There's nothing overly athletic. It's just like his incredible patience and craftiness, I guess.
Luka Doncic is another great example of that, right? We don't want to go down the
Kawhi is that way.
Patient. Yeah. So you see that in football as well.
Yeah.
So
what's the next step where your early beliefs are confirmed? Like when he starts to play real games, what will tell you that you were 100% right in your initial gut instinct?
Oh, I don't need to see him. I don't need to see him playing any games. I just
really
my experience. right? My experience of playing with all pro DBs, playing with guys, I've seen 1,000 guys come in camp. You know, in 13 years, I've probably seen so many defensive backs, and I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. It'd be like you telling me something about a guy who understands the production of the radio. He's just comfortable with it. He's not all over the place like, we're doing a break of this. Just comfortable. I don't need to be confirmed. Like I can tell you, like it's certain things that are obvious. Like I don't need to tell y'all that Jeremiah Smith is a day one starter in the NFL and he's probably going to be all pro. You can see it.
Yeah.
Right? It's obvious.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, he just mentioned the best player in college football, and we'll see him on Saturday at noon against Texas as Sean's alma mater takes on the number one team.
But he was the best player as a freshman, right? He didn't get spared up. He looked like he was Marvin Harrison already, right?
Yeah. You know, it is interesting.
Go ahead.
No, it's what you're describing applies to a lot of things, not just sports. Like when people get to that point where they are comfortable and they can just slow down and, you know, and think clearly, and there's nothing that's sort of making them, you know, frenzied in any way. Like I can tell you, like doing what I do, one of the best pieces of advice that I got early on is even if you think you're going slow it down even more. And that is, it's just interesting to hear you say that. You know, the other thing about this position, you've told me this before, Smoot's told me this before, is that it's very much a position where players begin to thrive with more experience because it's also a brainy position. So are you suggesting that he's going to start off being great, or you just know eventually he'll get there?
I'm suggesting that from day one, he's going to be great. I mean, I'm suggesting this, and this is a big statement. I'm suggesting from day one that most of the balls might go towards Lattimore. And I love Marshawn. He's a Buckeye. I am telling you, like, this kid is that good. There's a reason he's left corner in the NFL. It's the reason why he's a day one starter. We hit it. We on the last AP and Coach Quinn in the draft, and we could talk about all the guys they drafted. They've been spot on. You know, they just plug this guy in, and you know, the only thing we got to worry about is, you know, 4 or 5 years when the contracts come up, who we can keep, because they've been spot on with the draft picks. Look at Mikey. Mikey's a guy you put on the inside. He was towards the end of last year. He was one of the best corners in the league, and now you move him inside, and I mean, the secondary is legit, man. Like Quan Martin is a rising star, or a guy who, you know, could be a Pro Bowl type player. You know, you saw that late in the year. You know, didn't see it the first year, but it came on the second year. But now you can see the kid is just. You know, Washington secondary is amazing, man. And I could talk to the whole team, but it really stood out to me the way they just completely flipped the offensive line in the secondary. Totally different groups.
So tell me about Lattimore, what you've seen from him. I mean, that's a pretty, you know, out there statement. You're coming from, you know, a major experienced viewpoint, but to say the balls are going to be going towards Lattimore, not the rookie. Tell me what you believe Marshawn Lattimore can be here in year 2 with this team, or really in, you know, his first full season.
Well, first of all, Marshawn is going to be much improved from last year because, you know, corner with a hamstring,
right.
You know, and trying to learn everything, it was a very difficult situation that he was put in. But Marshawn is a savvy vet, smart. You know, he's going to make plays. You know, he's healthy this year, so you're going to see a really, really good corner. I think you're going to see, when I say the ball's going our way, I mean, like usually when a rookie comes in the league, there's a lot of times they just pick on a rookie. I don't think that the case this year, meaning not they're going to sit there and just throw at Marshawn, because obviously he's a pro. Like both of the corners are good and the nickel's good. You got to pick and choose who you're going to attack, whether it's the safeties or whoever it is in the back end. What I'm saying is that Marshawn is going to be really, really good too. But it won't be like it's obvious that I'm going out and throwing at this guy.
Right. So you think they line up against the Giants with Amos and Lattimore on the outside, and Mikey Sanderstill in the inside as they had envisioned when they drafted him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. And Neighbors is, one of the best young receivers in the NFL. I mean, arguably all those guys from LSU, just amazing. But it's not like it's going to be like, well, we got to match up with Marshawn and this. No. Trey Amos is going to be fine. And I'm not saying he's not like Neighbors can get at anybody in the league, whether you're the number one corner in the league. But what I'm saying is it won't be like we got to switch him off because this guy's not ready. No, he'll be ready.
We're talking to Sean Springs, and we have focused on the corners and really the secondary. You've already added what you think Quan Martin can be, and he played so well at the end of last year. Last year, the issue more than anything else was stopping the run. Do you feel comfortable that they will be improved in that area?
Yeah, I think so, because now, we talked about on this show that front and coverage goes together, meaning like, you can't really be a good pass defense if you can't get rushed, and you can't be a good run stopping defense if you don't have the ability to put eight men in the box and play man at times and put the safety down as an extra free hitter. So I think with the confidence that Joe Witt has with the guys in the back end, where he feels like I can put those guys out there and have one-on-one coverage and slide in on the outside, and a safety that's, both safeties can go sideline to sideline, Harrison as well as Quan. I feel like he can be more exotic with his play calling, more aggressive, on first and second down, which are typically rundowns, be more aggressive. All right, I can bring the safety down. Now I can really blitz my linebackers now because I feel good about I got a guy who can cover in the slot. They don't need help out in the pass game. So it's going to be very exciting to see Joe Witt's play calling and how, he has the freedom to do more because he has the flexibility. And they're deep. You're talking about guys like Jones can come in, who was a great man-to-man guy in New England, and Noah Igmanagi last year. Noah was awesome at slot, so they're deep. So it's not a fall off either if they have to go to the second and third group.
Give me another player that stood out to you defensively when you were out there watching him.
McGee.
God, I was going to ask you about McGee because they love him. Tell me what you love about him.
Boy. Hey, what we knew about him coming out of Temple, then he got banged up, but talking about a guy that just has that physical presence, kind of like, like when you see today's game, you see like a Fred Warner out there for San Fran, and you look at him, you're like, that guy's a linebacker, right? You look at him and you're like, hey, man, that kid can do everything. So
does he play like Fred Warner? Is he that fast? Is he that athletic?
He's athletic. He's explosive. And we all were questioning that coming off the injury. And he just looks so confident, and he's physical. And I mean, obviously he's the replacement when Bobby decides to hang up his cleats. But I just, when you see a guy with presence at linebacker positions, like he's just not out there. He is a guy who's physical. He can run. He can drop. I mean, I was just like, wow. I feel that way when I saw Frankie Lavu last year, right? When I saw Frankie, I was like, man, I don't remember this guy being like that. I follow Washington State and the Jets. But when you see Frankie, you're like, oh, yeah, he's an animal, right? This McGee could be that guy. You see, he has a presence about him. He's fast, and, it's just looks confident, man. And they did a great job of bringing him back. And I think he only had 5 or 6 snaps in the last preseason game, but he just has a presence, man. When you see him, when you think of like a linebacker, like, I'm going to go and get off the bus and want to see what your linebacking group, he's one of the first people that you show.
Interesting. So on Luvu, I think you could argue he was the second or third best player on the team last year, pound for pound. What is his next level? Is it superstar? He was a second-team All-Pro last year in the league. Does he have a chance to be a dominant player defensively in this league?
I think so, and the reason why I think so is because last year, we saw when he blitzed a few times, he just was reckless. Like, I mean, he was just tearing up the backfield, pushing people back, just getting to the ball. He's violent. He can rush, and that's kind of surprised me. I had no idea he was that effective in the pass rush. Now think about adding a Von Miller, right? You got a Von Miller who people say, well, does he still got it? He still had the fastest first step last year. Von can come in at any moment where you at least got to know because he can put pressure and he can get to the quarterback. Even if he only gets you 6 sacks, he's a presence, right? So now you got Von Miller on the opposite side of you, right? Now, where are you going to double team? Who are they going to chip the back on third down, right? I'm thinking about third down.
Yeah.
So the next level for him is, he can be a superstar because he might end up with 7 sacks and so many tackles and a few tackles for a loss. And they're using him the right way. Obviously, Coach Quinn was in Dallas with Michael Parsons, right? So when you think about Frankie Lou, all the things that he was doing with Michael Parsons, moving him around, Frankie's that guy. Frankie, so the next level for Frankie could be he's first team all pro. Wouldn't surprise me at all, especially now that you got a presence on the other side.
Who's going to lead the team in sacks this year?
Whew, man, that's a tough one, man. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I think it's going to be, it may be pretty balanced. I don't know if, I don't see a 12 or 13 sack guy,
Right.
but do I see a few guys with 6, 7, 8, maybe, maybe 2 or 3 guys? I'm not sure on that just yet.
2 players that I wanted to ask you about, and then we'll quickly talk about the offense. I've just always been a Duran fan, and I know that he hasn't always played up to his ability. He hasn't always been consistent, but I think his best is elite when he's at his best. What kind of year do you think he'll have? Which this isn't technically a contract year, Sean, but he could more likely than not, with no guaranteed money the year after in 2026. He could kind of go the same way John Allen went without a big year. What are you expecting from Payne?
I think Duran is going to be excellent. Again, the line has been upgraded. I don't know if you guys had a chance to get out of camp, but Kinlaw is a grown man right beside him. So, when you think of Duran, and then oftentimes you don't get the glory because he's getting double teamed. He was a bigger guy. Jonathan was in there, but Duran was a big guy for the run stopping and stuff. And now you put Kinlaw in there with him. I think Duran's going to have a great year. And you're right. I think players understand that, with the defense being elevated, obviously they're bringing in guys like Vaughn. They drafted Trey in the first round. You saw your partner, your other Alabama guy, get moved out, and you understand if you're part of this defense, they're trying to build a special defense. There's a standard. I think that what's the term? All tides rise or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to have a great year. And you're right. It's in the back of his mind. I got to perform this year. Next year's not a guarantee, so I got to perform. And I just think that the defense is going to be a little more aggressive. First, second down, so it takes the pressure off him because you might want to double team, but they might be shooting the A gap or something with a Bobby or Frankie or someone else like coming, right? So you just can't key and always have the double teams on the big boys up front.
What is your impression of Johnny Newton?
I like Johnny Newton, man. Johnny's a little undersized, but he got that. For me, I laugh, man, because he got that Warren Sapp and Cortez Kennedy kind of body. When you see him out there, and he's like, especially beside Kinlaw. Kinlaw looks like he ate him. But what you see is a guy who has moves. He's undersized, but when I say the Cortez Kennedy, Warren Sapp type guys for the fans out there, like, he just gets it done. He's sneaky good. He's sneaky better than you think, right? He might not look like this massive big guy, but he'll make a play in the backfield. He'll get a tackle for loss. His motor is good. He'll get skinny in a gap and make a play, right? So he's one of those guys where if you underestimate him, you'll look up and he have a pretty good stat line. He have a tackle for a loss, half sack, and a couple tackles. He's one of those guys to get in and spell those guys.
Was he the best defensive player you played with, Cortez Kennedy?
Ever of all time?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, him or I would say Cortez Kennedy, or if a young Sean Taylor probably would have been if he would have continued on the way because he had that top 5 type talent, right? So yeah. Cortez was just unreal. I mean, if people don't know, Cortez was Defensive Player of the Year on a 3-13 team.
That's really incredible.
Yeah,
that's
so he was special. Yeah. Cortez was very special, man, and rest in peace. But
yeah,
he was a pretty good football player, and I think Sean Taylor would have been. Sean reminded me of a young Benny Blaze. I don't know if people remember. Benny was a guy who influenced me, and most people don't even know how good Benny was at Detroit. How many years he was all pro, like physical. But Sean probably would have been, from a talent perspective, Sean probably would have been one of those guys.
All right, we're talking to Sean Springs. Offensively, this was one of the most dynamic teams in the league last year, with the quarterback leading the way. What do you expect in year 2? Do you buy into any of the sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels? The people that believe in that coming to fruition.
I don't believe in the sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels. In fact, when you think of Jaden Daniels, or you think of guys like C.J. Stroud, who the year before came and had a wonderful year, Jaden Daniels is one of those guys, man, where, I don't know if you guys heard, but he was like, I'm taking a wristband off this year. And we talked about it yesterday on the podcast. To me, that meant like I'm feeling more confident in my relationship with Cliff, where they can throw more on me, I can have more input on the offense, and we're going to expand on what we did last year. So for me, Jaden Daniels, and the way he studies, last one lead, first one in the building, the way he has command and his poise. Another guy we talk about poise, we all talked about it last year. See, the guy looked like he'd been in the league for 5 years. Jaden made some adjustments. I just think that there's no sophomore slump for him. The X factor for him is how do we run the ball? We upgraded our line. We were able to move some people in, and Larry Tunsil came in, and we drafted Conley. And, it's going to be interesting to see, what the running back rotation looks like, who makes a team. And, but you got to suspect that the running game is going to be better. We got bigger up front. Terry signed, and I think that was critical. Terry has to have a good year, and Noah has to be healthy, right? Zach Ertz looks like he went back to 8 years. I saw Zach in Arizona training hard when I was out in Arizona, and we had a chance to spend some time together. And I was just like, Zach, man, I don't know what happened, but man, you hit the fountain of youth. Zach Ertz is a monster. Man, I mean, the offense can be good. Now, it's going to be challenging. The Giants have upgraded their defense. Philly is going to be excellent. They're bigger front. There's no answer for Jalen Carter other than stay away from it. And their defense is going to be good. Some people are just that dominant. He's Aaron Donald. But Dallas, without Michael Parsons. But, and the league has a chance to see Jaden now, right? So they're going to, he has to expand in the league. It's going to be better prepared for, what he can do.
You mentioned Noah Brown, and Noah Brown gets some conversation from fans, but not a lot of it unless he's injured. And then it's like, well, we really need him. What makes Noah Brown necessary for this offense?
Well, because nowadays you got to have, the outside guys who can win. It's going to be a time where they're going to get after your quarterback, get after your offensive line, and they might lean the safety over Terry. If they can play man, lean over top of your number one, and somebody at safety is good enough to at least cover Zach Ertz. We got to have another guy that can win. There's no team that goes deep into playoffs without two number ones. Name one. Can't.
At wide receiver?
Right? At wide receiver.
Well, the Bills and the Chiefs last year. Well, the Chiefs last year didn't have a number one for much of the postseason.
Well, the Chiefs are different. The Chiefs got the greatest.
Okay, well, you asked me to name one.
Okay,
yeah.
That's true. They had before that when they were winning, they had Tyreek Hill, and the reason why that the Eagles was able to tee off, I guarantee it would have been a little more different if Tyreek Hill plays for that Chiefs.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, but the bottom line is, you're absolutely right. You named the Chiefs.
The Bills, had they made the Super Bowl, certainly would have been a team without a number one, with two number ones.
Yeah, but they didn't, and they haven't made the Super Bowl.
Right. True.
Cincinnati has.
Cincinnati has, but they didn't have in that Super Bowl. They didn't. Who did they have? They had Chase. They didn't have.
They have Tosh Boyd and Pickens. The rookie, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. All right.
Yeah,
Real quickly.
Tosh Boyd. Okay. Anyway, go ahead. But the bottom line is, you need another number one.
What is the upside for this team? Best case.
Well, the upside is, let's be honest. For me, the upside is we go to the NFC Championship again, and the upside is all path to the Super Bowl right now is in our conference. I don't believe that there's a better team, there's a better built roster than the Eagles. And I'm honest with that. I'm not saying we can't beat them, but we got to be very honest about how good the Eagles, their roster is right now. So we did all the things necessary to beat that team. We got bigger up front. We got better in the back end. We got two corners or three corners who can cover. We got safety players better. Our linebackers, we got more depth. We're bigger up front. We went got on defense front. We went got Kinlaw. So we did everything to beat the guys we have to beat in our conference, which is the Eagles. And people are probably doing on the other side. They got to be, what are we doing to beat Kansas City, right? In the AFC, right? So in the NFC, I think that road goes through the Eagles, and I think this team should be very, very competitive. And for me, it's going to decide what happens in the playoff. Von Miller could be the difference. We're going to need a guy to make a play in a big moment in the playoffs. We need that guy. There's a Von Miller or somebody else like that.
Buckeyes win Saturday. They're 2-point favorites over Texas.
I thought they had Texas, 53% chance of beating us. I think it's going to be a tough one.
Just giving you the point spread.
Okay.
Buckeyes are favored at home by 2.
Oh, it's gonna be a close one, man. The Texas team is very good. I will say this: we reloaded. We got some guys, and it's good. Yeah, I know the Texas defense is very good, but that Jeremiah Smith is special, man.
Ooh, yeah. And he can't even come out after this year.
And he can't even come out. He would have. They said he would. I heard. I think it was Todd Platt or something. He's like he'd have been the first pick last year.
Last year's, yeah, he would have gone before Cam Ward. We would have gone number 1.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I hope you're well.
Number 1 this year.
Hope you're well. Thanks
man.
for doing this as always. We'll talk at some point during the season, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, man. And we didn't start no trouble this off season.
No, it's because we've got a good team to talk about. Whenever you've gotten in trouble with me, it's because the team hasn't been good and you've been right. So easy to talk about them right now. The most fun we've had. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it as always.
All right. Thanks, brother. Yeah. All right. Bye.
So I mentioned earlier in the show that I was on a radio show this morning, and the host asked me, well, what's the best case for Washington this year? And I said, going to the Super Bowl. They've got the best quarterback in the NFC. And as long as they're in that postseason, he's going to have a chance to take them to the Super Bowl. I believe that. I really do. I'm curious as to what you think. What is the best case for this team? We now know, we'll know for sure who's on the 53, but, we're talking about roster spots 49 through 53. We know the crux of this roster. Terry's now in, and under contract. He was going to be in anyway, more likely than not, but he is hopefully now in a much better mood coming in. What is the best case? Am I nuts to have answered that question, the Super Bowl? What do you think the best case is? 301-230-0980. This segment with Sean Springs was brought to you by Staples. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $125 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 9/13. And save even more with Easy Rewards program at Staples.
D-Wood, what is the ceiling for this Commanders team?
Super Bowl. Super Bowl's on the table for the Washington Commanders, and primarily because of their quarterback. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a superstar in this league. We saw what he did in his rookie year. It was an unprecedented rookie year by rookie quarterback. And so when you have him as a centerpiece, they've upgraded the offensive line. Obviously, trading for Laramie Tunsil being one of the pieces. You trade for Deebo Samuel, another piece added to that offensive side. And now you're talking about better protection, better run game, more explosiveness on the perimeter, and it all adds up to the Washington Commanders being one of these teams that we're going to talk about in the NFC representing that conference.
Damian Woody earlier this morning on the Greenberg Show on ESPN Get Up. I was on a radio show this morning, the one that Denton is a part of now on BetQL, and I was asked by one of the hosts, what is the best case for Washington in 2025? And I said, the Super Bowl. Am I nuts? What is the team's best case season in 2025? 301-230-0980. I basically said almost verbatim what Damian Woody said. They've got the best quarterback in the conference. They've upgraded their offensive line. They've added another major weapon offensively in Deebo Samuel, and it's year 2 in Cliff Kingsbury's system. I think Washington could be as dynamic as any team offensively in the league. I think at times they were last year. We know what the mystery is. Sean Springs seems pretty confident about the defense this year. If the defense is just improved, it doesn't even have to be significantly improved. If it's just better than it was last year, I think they've got a shot to win double-digit games and win 2-3 playoff games and be in the Super Bowl representing the NFC. I think that's the best case. We can talk about worst case next week in sort of a best case, worst case record segment in terms of projected records. But for me, I think the best case is Super Bowl. Anytime you've got the best quarterback, you've got a chance to win a lot of games. And I think they've got the best quarterback. 301-230-0980. By the way, Diana Rossini reporting that Washington is gauging interest in a potential trade scenario for cornerback Noah Igbenegani. Interesting. They must feel really good about corners to be moving him. He's been a player that has played well for them, certainly in the slot. Plenty of other cuts happening. Jalen Holmes released, according to Keim. It's also KJ Osborne we had mentioned earlier. Let me just give you the updated list before Bobby Price was cut earlier. Chris Moore, wide receiver. Duke Riley, the linebacker cut. We'll keep you posted on cuts.
Foster Sorrell.
He's cut. You'll update the cut list in your next what's trending, right?
That's right.
Okay. So stay tuned for that. 301-230-0980. Am I nuts to say the best case scenario is Washington representing the NFC in the Super Bowl? Kevin in Arlington, go ahead.
Thanks, Kevin, for taking my call. No,
Sure.
You're not nuts at all. But I just want to sort of zero in on some specifics about how I see what you said. To me, for best case, we have to beat the bully in our backyard. We have to beat the Eagles on the way. What I mean is, if we don't face them in the postseason, let's say they play someone else and get upset, and somehow we go from the NFC Championship into the Super Bowl, that's fantastic, of course. But for me personally, I need to know they're no longer our daddy. We can beat them on the way to a Super Bowl championship. And honestly, I feel like it will take a lot out of us to do that. And I just can't imagine in my wildest dreams us winning the Super Bowl this season. But hey, man, bring it on. I would love it. I just feel like we're too thin. We're just too thin because of Ron and Marty and leaving us nothing. And we're going to have some injuries. We're going to have some challenges, but I could see us getting the Super Bowl. I just don't know that we can win it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I should have added that I think to get there, I think they're dangerous in the postseason, even if they're not the number one seed, even if they don't have home field
Absolutely.
advantage. You know, I'll take our guy on the road in a playoff game after what I saw with what we believe to be a better supporting cast. But the best way to make the Super Bowl is to play 2 games at home. And to do that, they have to not only win the division, they've got to end up with the best record in the NFC. But at the very least, they need to win the division to ensure a home game or 2. And that is typically a requirement. It's hard to win 3 straight on the road to get there. And that would be the concern too, you know, is getting by the Eagles and ensuring, by the way, Kevin, that you get to the point late in the season that those 2 games against Philadelphia on December 20th and then on January 3rd or whatever that is, that they are meaningful football games. I would have loved to have played Philadelphia in 1 game much earlier in the season, but yeah, I'm with you. You got to you have to end up with more wins or the tiebreaker advantage over the Eagles in the division to give you your best chance.
One other thing just to mention, again, it's a scenario planning here, but let's say we get to that game, the first of the 2 late in the season, and we win the first one. Well, let's say Philly's been kicking everybody's you-know-what, and that we get to the last game, and Philly doesn't need it. Like Philly, we need it, let's say, but they don't need it. And we get a win, but it's sort of an asterisk win because Philly sat starters, whatever. I could see that happening, which would then set up, a very interesting third meeting whenever it could potentially happen in the postseason. So a lot of things can happen with those.
We're really getting ahead of ourselves, but I like the way you're thinking, because one of the reasons that I hated the 2 out of the last 3 is there is a good chance the last one won't mean anything. And,
that's what I mean,
yeah. And I would have liked to have seen 2 heavyweight, highly anticipated regular season matchups. But anyway,
we
Kev.
might get it. If this is anything like the 91 season, we might get 2 amazing pre-playoff games. And that would the networks will love us if that's the case.
Yeah. Thanks. As always. Tom, I mentioned on a radio show this morning as a guest when asked what is the best case scenario for Washington this year, I said Super Bowl. Seemed to take the hosts aback a little bit. Am I nuts? What's the best case for this upcoming season?
The best case is a Super Bowl appearance. And I think that even better than that is a Super Bowl win, which we are capable of doing.
Yeah, you get to the game, you got to get to it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I said as a Super Bowl appearance. But it really depends on how that defensive backfield works. If Lattimore comes back, then we have a shot. People forget that the year the Rams put the greatest show on turf, there was one team that beat them. It was the Redskins. And there was a reason why. That was the reason why was because we had 3 cover cornerbacks. That's the one year that
we didn't beat the greatest show on turf during their Super Bowl year. We beat them the next year.
Yes, we did.
No.
Are you sure?
I will look it up. They went 13-3 in their season with Kurt Warner starting for Trent Green when they won the Super Bowl. We almost played them in the NFC Championship game because we lost to Tampa. But Jeff George beat him on Monday Night Football, but I think that was in the 2000 season. It was the 2000 season. I'm trying to see. No, we didn't play him in 99. We did not play him in 99, the year they won it. We did play him the next year, and that's where Jeff George got to start Monday Night Football and played the only decent game that he played for us, and we beat him on Monday
Night
Football.
Yeah, but look at our defensive backfield. It was Champ.
Yep, it was definitely Champ. Darryl, it would have been who else?
Champ, Darryl Green.
Right.
And Deion
Sanders.
Carrier.
Was Carrier the safety?
Nope, Deion Sanders.
Yeah, Dion. Dion was Dion and Champ and Darryl Green, obviously. Yes. Yeah. In 2000, when we beat the Rams, that's right. Yeah, Champ and Dion out there. Yes. So you're saying you like the chances of winning the Super Bowl because you love what we have at cover corner.
If Lattimore comes back, yes.
Well, if he comes all, and hopefully you get the Marshawn Lattimore that they traded for. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Everybody stay on hold. I said earlier on a radio show today that the best case for our team here is Super Bowl, that they can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Am I nuts? What do you think the best case for Washington is in 2025? Your calls next on that. We'll keep you posted on the cuts, and we will keep you posted if any information breaks specific to the Terry McLaurin details of the contract. What typically happens, as Michael Giannetti explained to us, is once the deal gets signed, then it gets reported to the league, and that's when you get the leak of the entire deal, not just one side of it. We'll see what we get probably before the day is over, maybe tomorrow. But team is continuing to cut players to get down to 53, and Max will have the update of those on the list throughout the show. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, that's right, Kevin. Here we are with two of the biggest NFL holdouts ending yesterday. First, with Terry McLaurin signing his 3-year, $96 million extension to remain in Washington. Then Trey Hendrickson and his camp came to a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals to play out this year with a $14 million pay bump. He is now set to make $30 million this season. Plus, loads of movement in the NFL right now as we rapidly approach the 4 p.m. cut deadline. The Raiders have been very active as they traded for Kenny Pickett last night and also signed Amari Cooper to a 1-year deal. Running back Audric Estime was waived by the Broncos. The Giants have released Tommy DeVito, and longtime NFL tackle Dan Skipper has been released by the Lions. The Commanders currently have released, as it's been announced, linebacker Duke Riley, a corner Asong Bassi, and Bobby Price, defensive lineman Jalen Holmes, defensive tackle Norrell Pollard, center Nick Harris, tackles Tyree Phillips and Foster Sorrell, and wide receivers Braylon Sanders, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Chris Moore have all been released by the Washington Commanders. The Nats, they fall to the Yankees by a score of 10-5. Tough night for Brad Lord last night as he goes 4 1/3 innings and giving up 7 runs on just 8 hits. Cam Schlittler had a phenomenal night, throwing 6 scoreless innings, including 8 strikeouts. Nats will reset against the Yankees tonight. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck at 6:35 on the Fan with Charlie and Dave. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1, and you can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
What's a team's best case in 2025? I say Super Bowl, representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. What's yours? 301-230-0980. We'll talk some college football with Stanford Steve next hour. We get the first full-fledged week one of the season starting really tomorrow, Thursday night. But, of course, Saturday, what a college football Saturday it is with Texas, Ohio State at noon. In the 3:30 window, Alabama and Florida State in Tallahassee. And then I think a lot of people feel the best team in the country may be playing Saturday night in Death Valley, the other Death Valley, Clemson hosting Garrett Nussmeier and LSU in what will be a big showdown. About as good of a week one as you can get. Notre Dame, Miami included on Sunday night. And then Monday night, you get Bill Belichick's debut in Chapel Hill against TCU. Pretty good football weekend coming up. 301-230-0980. I really think that as long as he's the quarterback and Kingsbury's the coordinator and they've added a weapon and they've upgraded their offensive line, I could definitely see another 11 or 12 wins and potentially a home game or two and a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. Absolutely. I think that's the best case this year. It's been a long time since we could say that. Like not since I've been doing radio, long before I got into radio. I would say 2000 was the last year you could legitimately go into a season and say, yes, Super Bowl's a possibility. Let's go to our guy, Tony in Silver Spring. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing? I agree with that assessment that, with the team that they have this year and everybody in it, that they, the Super Bowl would be the best case scenario. I disagree with your assessment that Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the conference.
Okay.
In my estimation, that would have to be Jalen Hurts.
Okay, we disagree. I think Jalen Hurts is very good. I think Jalen Hurts is very good in big-time games. So is our guy. But there's no way that I would ever swap Jaden Daniels for Jalen Hurts. And I like Jalen Hurts. I've been a Jalen Hurts fan. But I think Jaden is a much more dynamic quarterback. I think he's a much more comfortable pocket passing quarterback. And I think he's more explosive than Jalen Hurts as a playmaker. But that's my opinion. I think Jalen Hurts on this team last year, they would have won 8 or 9 games, not 12.
Okay, all right. We'll disagree on that. I mean, I particularly disagree about the winning 8 or 9 games with him on this team. He's better than that, even as a individual quarterback. I mean, he's accurate. He throws a long ball. He has a good arm. He'll run over you.
I love Jalen Hurts. To me, he is the next rung down after Jaden. That's all. He's really good, though.
I know. I would put him number 4 of all quarterbacks in the league. I would say Mahomes, Allen,
Lamar
Jackson.
Yeah. And then you'd have Hurts 4. That's fine. Yeah. We just disagree.
Then Joe Burrow. Then Jaden.
Okay. That's fine. I would not have Jalen Hurts in my top 5. I'd probably consider Jalen Hurts into top 10 territory. I'd actually tell you that I think Matt Stafford is the second best quarterback in the NFC, and then probably Jalen Hurts. But I'm starting to fall in love with Baker Mayfield. All right, I got to get to a break, but thanks for the call. Everybody on hold, Manuel, Aveen, Lap, Rob. We'll take a few more calls on this. What's the best case in 2025? I was on a show this morning, and I said Super Bowl, representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. What's your best case for Washington in 2025? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. Don't forget, we are also on YouTube. You can watch us on our YouTube homepage. You can download the Odyssey app and access the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in Team 980, and hit subscribe. Cut down day in the NFL, so you will see a lot of news from around the league, including some names that will be cut today. Deontay Johnson released in Cleveland. Look, he's, a receiver at this point who's got to be still in his 20s. Obviously, he's had some good seasons, the seasons he had in Pittsburgh. But last few years struggled. Where was he last year before Cleveland? Was he in Baltimore last year?
I believe that's true.
He was in Houston last year.
Oh.
No, he was 3 teams last year: Carolina, Baltimore, and Houston. He had some issues, if I recall, last year. Washington, though, right now, Noah Brown's their number 2. I thought it was interesting what Sean Springs said about Noah Brown, that he is, a borderline number 1, that you need 2 number 1s. I don't think most of us would view Noah Brown as a number 1. I don't view him as a number 1, but I do think that he developed some chemistry early in the season with Jaden and would have been a big factor had he been healthy down the stretch. All right, 301-230-0980. I was asked this morning doing a radio hit, what's the best case for Washington in 2025? And I said, the Super Bowl. And I believe that. What do you think? 301-230-0980. Eric in Winchester. Thanks for holding, Eric. Go ahead.
Kevin, I definitely agree with you that, winning the Super Bowl would be attainable for us. I mean, if you look at the schedule, it's the first year we've ever been able to look at the schedule and go, I think we can win every game. I mean, obviously we won't win every game, but it would be hard week to week right now as the team is constructed to go. Over the years, you would look at the schedule and go, we'll lose this game, we'll lose this. I mean, I really believe that we can win. You look at them and you go, I think we'll be able to win every game. In the moment, you'll think, obviously we will lose some games, but that's pretty amazing for us to literally at this point, before the season starts, you start looking at the schedule and you go, well, we should beat them. We should beat them. It's hard for you to look at it and go, we're going to lose a game. Obviously we will, but
yeah, I know.
As a fan,
you've said that a few times. I don't look at the schedule and just say win, 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 win. I mean, it's so hard to do. I do think that they're going to be more likely than not favored in a lot more games than they are underdogs. And I think, when how they look at the season-long point spreads. I think Washington was favored in like 13 of the 17 games, something like that. Maybe it was 13-3 with one game that was even. We have no idea what it'll look like when we get there. I would certainly think that, week 2 on a short, turnaround to Lambeau won't be easy. I think Kansas City on a Monday night's not going to be easy. I think, 2 Philly games at the end of the year, a Detroit team at home. I don't know you just don't know really. Every year we say the same thing. It's like you think you got it figured out even early in the season and things change so dramatically. But this is the best, obviously, we've all felt about this team. It's the highest expectation level we've ever had. It's the most anticipation for a season since, I think Kevin in Arlington corrected me, and I think accurately so. I thought it was since 2000 or maybe 2012, but he said the Gibbs season in 2004 was really the most anticipated, but for different reasons. In terms of the opportunity at hand to compete for the Super Bowl, we were in the NFC Championship game just 7 months ago. I think almost to the day, 7 months ago. And they're going to be one of the teams people think has a chance, and I think that's best case. I don't think it's a reach at all. Thanks, Eric. Let's go to Rob and Frederick. Rob, go ahead.
Hey, you were talking about home field advantage. I remember in '87, we went in as a wild card or something, and we ended up with the home field advantage because the number 1 seed got knocked off.
49ers,
we beat the Bears. Yeah, so there's always that possibility. And the other thing is, I think we're a little better at corner than we was last year. I think Amos has got a little better head on him than St. Jude, because St. Jude would always come up with a stupid penalty at the wrong damn time.
Well, I think the key defensively is first and foremost they got to be better stopping the run. We've talked a lot about this, but it's like Jacobs in week 2, Genty in week 3, Bijan in week 4, Hampton and Najee Harris in week 5. You get to down the road, Gibbs. You got to face Barkley twice. You got to face Achane. Aaron Jones. There are just a ton of running backs and quarterbacks on their schedule this year. Maybe they're not there by the time you get to that game, but last year they had a problem stopping the run. This year it could really cost them games because the number 1 way to beat Washington going into almost every matchup will be to keep Washington's offense off the field. And if you can run the football against our defense, you can do that. And you can shorten the game. And we talk about the schedule we're facing. We are going to be the team on a lot of schedules that teams and their fans say, yeah, that's probably a loss. That hasn't happened basically forever. Let's go to Lap in DC. Lap, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? How's it going,
you,
bro? Good, man. I think, Super Bowl, man. If not this year, mighty close. And, in the next couple of years, especially since we got Terry for another 4 more years, which is very key. We've upgraded, as everybody has alluded to, we've upgraded all the positions of need for sure. And then you just have a chance. And I want to see how we are, man. Battle tested within the division, battle tested with a harder schedule, man. And one thing I can take my hat off on is Jaden, man. He looks really comfortable. His chemistry with the team and Cliff, man, is going to be key. And it looks like he got it, man. So we're going to see, man. And, with JD5, Kevin, you always got a chance, man. So I'm excited.
That's the way I view it. I mean, look, fingers crossed, knock on wood, do whatever you want if you're superstitious. But if he is healthy, they're going to have a chance in every game they play. I just cannot see a significant, backwards move offensively. Are they going to be as clutch as, are they going to deliver on every fourth down? They were 20 of 23. That's unprecedented. It's going to be hard for them to duplicate that. And that kept a lot of drives, alive. That, I think, accounted for, ultimately, it led to like 100+ points, their fourth down conversions. But why were they successful on fourth down? Because they have a cheat code at quarterback. And as long as that cheat code exists, then they're going to be pretty successful on fourth down in 2025. But it's also possible, and I pointed this out with Josh Allen's second year of starting. He had a bunch of comebacks, fourth quarter comebacks, a lot of close games in that first full year of starting. The next year, they were so good offensively that they didn't have those same situations that they were confronted with week in and week out. They blew people out. We talked to Bill Barnwell about this last week, and he said that is definitely, one of the things that sometimes when people say, well, they can't, win all those close games or they can't convert all those fourth downs, they may not have to in 2025. Manuel, go ahead. Manuel's calling from California. What's the best case in 2025? Go ahead. You there, Manuel? Put Manuel on hold. Let's go to Aveen.
Hey, Kevin. You're not crazy for saying Super Bowl. And I just go into the season with this mindset. We were a top 5 offense last season. At the very least, we're going to comfortably be a top 10 offense. So going into every game, I'm thinking our offense is probably going to be better than your offense. And if your team has a good offense, our quarterback is probably going to be better than your quarterback. He's probably going to make more plays to help us win the game than your quarterback. And I know defense is important, but in the NFL, modern NFL, good offense beats good defense. And you just look at the good defenses on our schedule. The Broncos got smoked when they had to play good offenses like the Ravens, the Chargers, the Bengals. You look at the Chargers defense, they got smoked when they had to play the Buccaneers, the Ravens. And the Eagles, we put up 36 on the Eagles in the game in late December with only 24 minutes time possession. And we played pretty well against them in the championship game. We were moving the ball up and down the field. We just couldn't stop turning the ball over. So good offense beats good defense. And, we're a trendy pick to everybody saying we're going to regress and all that because we had an easy schedule last year. But,
others, I think it's a mix with them. We just played the Damian Woody. He said Super Bowl as well. I've heard other people say Super Bowl, but I've heard the step back because of the close games and the fourth downs and the sophomore slump and the whole thing. But go ahead.
Yeah. So more analytics people will say, step back because of the easy schedule, but they leave off that, we won back-to-back road games and road playoff games. And our offense probably played the Eagles' defense better than anybody else post-September. So you have the fourth down luck. The Bills and Chiefs are always at the top of the league in fourth downs because they have good playmaking quarterbacks. And it wasn't just fourth down. We were a lead on second down, a lead on third down, a lead in the red zone. And then the last thing people say is the older roster. But, I don't think we're relying on Zach Ertz or Lattimore or Bobby Wagner. If one of them goes down, it's not going to be the end of our team. I think we have way more depth than people think. So I just think those things can be easily debunked.
Yeah, I think a lot. Debunked is maybe a little bit too aggressive, but I definitely think that there is a way to refute a lot of that stuff and a way to push back to say, yeah, that doesn't, regression to the mean or whatever they want to say doesn't apply in this particular conversation, in part because of the quarterback. Let's go to Mark in Largo. Mark, finish it up for us. Best case for 2025 is
best
what?
Best case is this team is 15-2. We beat the Ravens 34-20 in the Super Bowl. That's the best case.
Why don't you lay out the whole playoff run? Who do we beat in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, we beat the first game. We beat Seattle because we got a vengeance loss that we lose to them after we go 8-0 to Kansas City and we lose to Seattle. We beat them 31-17. Then we played the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's homecoming, and we beat the crap out of them 38-0. Then we win the Super Bowl. After we win the Super Bowl,
I love that you got the whole thing mapped out. This is what I used to do.
But here's the reason why.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why, though, Kevin.
Yeah.
Jalen Lane is going to be that third receiver. And contrary to what people say, Noah Brown is going to do Noah Brown things. He's probably going to get hurt probably sometime either late September, early October. But Jalen Lane is going to be featured. Jalen Lane is going to be featured in the first game when they play the Giants. He's going to he's going to be that third receiver. He's going to make it so difficult to defend, along with Rodriguez and Bill Merritt. You have a running game and a third receiver. It is almost impossible to defend this offense, especially when you got an athletic quarterback like him.
What about McCaffrey at tight end with some bulk?
Well, you got Zach Ertz, but see, they're going to try. See, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. They're going to try to take away Terry, Debo, and roll everything over to Zach. But when Jalen starts going off, Jalen Lane starts going off, people are going to say, well, damn. And then you got Merritt, and then you got Rodriguez. See, we didn't have a running game last year. That's the scary part. We went 12-5, Kevin, without a real legitimate running game.
What's the final score in the NFC Championship game again?
38-0.
38-0 at home over Kyle and the 49ers.
Because what's-his-face is going to have a meltdown in the game. Brock Purdy's going to throw 3 interceptions. 2 of them going to be for touchdowns. But more importantly, Washington is going to be – it's going to be – everybody's going to be banking on a sophomore slump. The problem is what you're going to see is Adam Peters has pulled off a Pittsburgh Steeler of 51 years ago where the draft of 20 I called you a month ago, Kevin, and told you if this team becomes a dynasty, it's going to be because of this year's draft.
The 5
I'm
players.
telling you. The 5 players they got in this draft.
Right.
And I think it's a possibility.
Do you have them losing to Seattle for the first loss because it's a short week coming off an emotional win on Monday night at Arrowhead?
And they're 8-0. And they're 8-0. They're going to be 8-0, and that's going to be an emotional game. They're going to be flat as hell. It's going to be a Saturday game. They'll lose that game. They'll lose the last game of the season. Right, on Sunday night. They'll lose the last game of the season with Philadelphia because they won't really need it.
Exactly.
Because they'll have home field advantage.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going.
And I just see this is. I mean, but Kevin, look, 12-5 without a real running game. Do you know that no one's really talking about that?
With a bad defense.
And a bad defense. And their defense, I think, will be a top. I think their defense will be a top 15. Top 15, but it's going to be mostly on pass rush. But I'm telling you, Kevin, this team will rival the 91 Skins. Because
is Jaden the MVP 15-2 and the best team in the NFC, maybe the NFL?
It's clearly Jaden.
Yeah.
Clearly Jaden. He'll go from Rookie of the Year, MVP, and it's unfortunate because I happen to like Lamar Jackson and I like the Ravens. It's just that I think in the Super Bowl, they're going to build this Super Bowl up as the Beltway. Jaden versus Lamar. Jaden versus Lamar. It's going to be built up like that in Santa Clara. And I think Lamar's going to get off to a rough start because he's going to be nervous. Jaden's going to be calm, cool, and collective. And even though they're going to make a comeback.
What's the weather going to be like? Because it's an outdoor stadium. February, Santa Clara. What's the weather going to be like?
Oh, man. Now you messing with me, Kevin.
No, you got the whole thing figured out. I'm curious. Is it a cloudy, wet, damp day, or is it sunny and spectacular?
It'll be somewhat. Look, Kevin, to say they can go to the Super Bowl and win it, what is so wrong with that?
You're not nuts. Well, you are nuts, and I love you for it. You're completely nuts. We all are to a certain degree. But the crazy part about it is that everything you described is possible with this team. It's true.
Well,
I think there's a chance they could be much better on offense than they were last year in year 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do too.
You have a running game. And you have a running game, and you got
a no line, and you got quarterback year 2. That's yeah. This is a dude that doesn't, he's not.
Kevin, let me say this. If they put up 30+ points against the Giants without breaking a sweat, and then they go that Thursday and they blow out the Packers,
here we go.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. If they win 2 games in blowouts. Days of 91.
All right.
I'm just saying.
I'm not pushing back on you as other than just having fun with you. I think that there's a chance that this is easily the best offensive team in the NFC this year with the best quarterback. My concern is we got 30+ against the Giants and they got 28 and the ball with 2 minutes to go.
Now,
That's
well,
my
here's
concern.
Here's the thing. I think now that the Giants are going to keep Russell Wilson. If they put up 30 points against the Giants, I think Russell will turn the ball over a couple of times.
Okay.
I think the difference between this team this year and last year they couldn't really depend on the running game. Kevin, you know that. This year is different.
We'll
now
see if they can depend on the running game this year. I like Rodriguez. The rookie looks okay, but he's a rookie.
And I like Eckler.
All right.
I like both of them, so I think it'll work. Kevin,
All right.
it's great talking to you, bro.
All
I
right.
love you, man.
Good job, Mark. All right, when we come back, Stanford Steve from ESPN. You'll hear Stanford Steve preview the upcoming college football season. We'll keep you posted on the cut down to 53. So keep it here all day long. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. Just hit the like button and the subscribe button when you get there. There is there are now multiple reports out there that Washington is gauging interest and that there are multiple teams interested in trading for cornerback Noah Igman-Agani. There you go. They're comfortable with everything they have. What could they get for him? I honestly have no idea. I would consider his value to be higher than Brian Robinson Jr.'s, believe it or not. So maybe some sort of conditional fifth rounder, or a fifth round pick. But that's a guess. All right. College football gets underway in earnest. I mean, there was a few games last weekend. But we get the full week one. Their games Thursday night, Friday night, and then Saturday. It's Texas, Ohio State, high noon on Fox from Columbus. Number 1 versus number 2. First time in history that one's met two in the opening week of the college football season. Stanford Steve from Scott Van Pelt's ESPN Sports Center and from ESPN's College Game Day was on my podcast the other day. Steve is very much a college football guy and makes picks every Saturday. Did very well with his picks last year on College Game Day. He'll be part of the crew with Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit and all the guys this Saturday. By the way, Lee Corso's final game day, leading into the 12 o'clock games at noon. I started off by asking Steve if the game Saturday at noon, Texas and Ohio State, if that is a game that features the two teams that will be standing at the end.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not in my opinion. I think the two better teams are playing at Clemson that night.
Wow.
I really diving in on this stuff. I look at it's really different this year, Kevin, because last year when we had this conversation, you talk about the Will Howards, the Cam Wards, the guys that were coming to a school for 1 year and that the school was buying in on a 1 year transfer quarterback. Now, when you look at it, a bunch of the teams, it's all quarterbacks that have been within the program. You look at Arch, right, at Texas, come through the program, staying at Ohio State. He committed when Saban was the coach at Alabama. When he retired, he left for Columbus. You go down, Nussmeier at LSU, Klubnik at Clemson. So Aller at Penn State, the Carr kid at Notre Dame, Ty Simpson at Alabama. Everywhere you look, Miami's like the one outlier that's going with the transfer. So I think there's a comfortableness within teams that have their guy, and there's not this not knowing of if this is going to work out. Does that make sense to you? Like,
yeah,
they've seen these guys.
Yeah, right.
And so I like that for a sense. I talked to people at Alabama and Georgia. There's a real strong, quiet confidence where it's like, hey, go ahead, talk about Ohio State. They won it last year, and talk about Texas with Arch, and talk about Clemson with Dabo being back. Like, they like what they have at those two schools, and they're laying in the weeds, and have some opportunities early on to really show what they have. So I lean towards I ranked I did a top 5, and I had Clemson 1, Penn State 2, Notre Dame 3.
Wow.
So
no Texas, no Ohio State.
No, I believe they were. Well, Texas lost a lot on the line of scrimmage, man. Like, everybody's going to talk about Sark and the creative play call and this and that, but like, they had NFL guy after NFL guy after NFL guy on the offensive and defensive line drafted. In Ohio State, I just think there's Ohio State's never going to rebuild, but as they reload, there's things that you want to see, and it sounds like they want to see more out of the quarterback, and that's why Keenholz, hung around with saying longer than people expected. But I love the idea that they're playing each other in these big early games, because one loss doesn't crush you anymore.
Right.
And also, with no preseason games in college, you really find out what you got, and you have plenty of time to make up for it. And that's the best thing about college football now. I mean, Ohio State lost the worst possible game they could have last year, and got it together and won the national championship.
That game was on the other night on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
I just still can't believe Ohio State lost to that Michigan team last year.
Yep. And,
Crazy.
And to their credit, they come back and
Yeah.
they win the national championship. You know, like that's the good stuff. That's like, I don't know if Ryan Day gets enough credit for that and what he was up against, knowing how long that 2 weeks was.
Remember, we were talking about job security after they lost that game.
Yep.
So you and I talk a lot about quarterbacks when we have these conversations, and I don't think this is going to be any different because I just don't get the excitement over Cade Klubnik. Why do people think that he actually has a chance to be a Heisman Trophy winner and the first pick in the draft next April?
I just look at what he's done in the second year of that offense. And secondly, he's got NFL receivers now, and it's been so long since Clemson. I mean, going back to the Deshaun Watson days where they had guys. But I also look at last year where they lost their running back Maffa, who's on an NFL roster somewhere, and they really had to throw the ball. And then you go back to the situations that they were in where it was must win, in the ACC championship game. And I actually watched the Texas Clemson game last night. There's some freak turnovers off tip balls in that game. But I mean,
Texas was the better team, though.
Yeah, for sure. But like, it was one of those. Is this a 3-score game or is it a 1-score game? You know, like going into that game.
God, I had Texas for the limit in that game last year. Loved them. I just thought Clemson was just so overrated. Just did not like them. In part because of the way I felt about the quarterback. But anyway, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So when Maffa got hurt, he had to shoulder a bunch of stuff, and he produced. I think it was 36 touchdowns and 6 picks through top 5 rating. When you want to look at the QBR numbers, and people want to do that, and people are going to point to their schedule, I get it. But then I look at like McShay put out a mock, and like the 2 defensive linemen are in the top 8 picks. Klubnik's up there. So it's just a combination of things that I really think he is set up to succeed. I mentioned the receivers. When you talk about Williams and Wesco and Moore, they got some wiggle and some juice. And in the ACC is not what the SEC or the Big Ten is. So when you go down the schedule, tricky game at Georgia Tech, who I think is going to be very good, and then the game at South Carolina at the end of the year. So it's set up. The road is there. But when you look at this day and age of college football, and you talk about returning production, I want that. And nobody has more than Clemson. So that combines with my thoughts on what I feel about their talent. And I love the addition of Tom Allen on defense. I think that guy's a great coordinator, and he left Penn State to take over the Clemson job. And I expect big things from Clemson this year. I've also said if they beat LSU, I could see them going undefeated.
And LSU's had problems with these opening games during the Brian Kelly era here. You know, that Florida State game from a few years ago comes to mind.
They lost twice to them. Yeah. They lost in New Orleans on a botched extra point, and then the next year they played in Orlando, and Florida State just gave it. You know, we saw Keon Coleman and all those guys. They dominated. But I said this to all my LSU buddies down there too. I'm like, I love your team. I love Brian Kelly. I just don't like you week 1. I think they're going to the playoff. The schedule sets up. They absolutely violated the portal as far as defensive linemen. The defense is healthy. They're going to play Perkins at that star position, which gets him in space, and he can rush the passer, which is what everybody wants. They revamped the secondary again, but it's bona fide starters from other programs. And the difference in the Sloan offense, who's their offense coordinator, as opposed to when Jaden was there with Denbrock, that's where I see it. They really struggle to run the football, and they had 4 offensive linemen drafted. So is there balance? That's where they got into trouble last year when they had that 3-game losing streak too, is they didn't take an onus in running the football. And when I think of LSU, the great teams, that's what they did. They always had a guy there, and there was a balance there. So that's one thing that's got to get fixed for LSU when I look at them is having more balance, because it's only going to help your quarterback when you can run the football and put the ball in the running back's stomach.
James Franklin's team last year had a fourth quarter lead in the national semifinal. They ended up losing to Notre Dame. That was, I think, a necessary run for him. Are they good enough? And is he good enough to win the whole thing?
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. I go back to, now we're going to do this, Kevin, with these quarterbacks getting millions of dollars to stay in college. Like, I'm sitting there watching that game with Nick Saban, and Franklin decides, all right, there's minimal time left. We're going to go for it. Tie game. We're going to go for it. He put the ball in his quarterback's hand. James Franklin didn't throw that interception. James Franklin did not coach Drew Aller to throw back across the field in a 2 minutes. That's on the quarterback, man. And they're going to get paid this money. They got to take some more accountability. I love Kotelnicki. I still don't understand how Warren didn't get the ball once against Ohio State on the goal line when he ran it down there for you. And I love Knowles coming over from Ohio State. When you look at them and watch them, they are as impressive a team physically now. The offensive line is 7-8 deep. The running backs are back. The receivers they brought in, I read, they had 3 receivers come in, and they accounted for 23 touchdown catches last year. And the receivers they had last year at Penn State only caught 12, and that includes not catching one ball against Notre Dame. So they addressed their needs. Defense, I think, is going to be lights out. When you look across the board of the NFL guys they have there, the schedule is easy, and they get Oregon coming in the 27th, which will be an all-eyes moment because they don't play anybody before that. But no, I expect Penn State to be there in the national championship game.
Digress real quickly. Warren or Loveland, better NFL tight end?
I've watched them both a bunch this spring, and I think Warren is getting there. Warren, we used to call it collision escape, where you're running a route and you just collide into the linebacker, knowing that you're bigger, stronger, faster, and that's how you get open. There's collision releases, all that. Loveland's way more polished as a route runner, but Warren just has to realize he can't do that anymore like he did in college. These guys are bigger and stronger, and he'll find it out. He learned a lot in that first game against the Ravens. But Loveland is got serious juice. He'll put up better numbers, and he's more polished. He looks better. So I would leave Loveland.
Interesting. I was surprised that Loveland went before Warren, but tight ends for sure. All right.
I just look at the system also.
All right. So
drafted him.
The net of it is, you think a better chance of a national championship preview is LSU Clemson on next Saturday, Labor Day weekend, instead of Texas Ohio State. Give me a team or two that you think from sort of the back of the pack ends up threatening a playoff berth and could be dangerous when we get to December and January.
Texas A&M. I love what Elko does. They got a schedule that'll give them opportunities. They go to Notre Dame early. They got a quarterback that's back that lit the world on fire last year when he got thrust into it. And then they struggled in their biggest game. Texas, dominated them on the lines of scrimmage, and they scored 7 points in a win and take all, go to the SEC title game at home. I was there, and it was tough to watch. They got super humbled, but like I said, I think the world of Elko as a defensive mind. They get a kid from NC State in Casey Concepcion, which is exactly what they need. I thought he was the best receiver in the portal, and that's a kid that Marcel Reed needs. They have an awesome offensive line set up. They're deep there. They're going to have talent on defense. Their running backs are extraordinary, and they're a team that is my dark horse in the SEC. I really, really like what they bring to the table.
Sticking in the SEC, how much do you like South Carolina, and how much do you like their quarterback Sellers?
I like Sellers. I don't love the team this year. I think they are a team, when you look at what you lost and you talk about returning, they lost guys. That defense was – put them up there with anybody at the end of the season, with the games that they won. But they're all gone. Now instead of having a young, Stewart, opposite 3 NFL guys on that defensive line. He's all by himself. So now teams can game plan for him. Sellers, I hate to be easy, but like he just has to play more football. You saw the good, but there still are plenty of games in there where it wasn't pretty. And, he makes 2 runs against Clemson, and those are the 2 biggest plays in the game, and they win. In the bowl game, Illinois gave it to them. And that's going to be more of what South Carolina looks like this year than as opposed to last year. So they are a wait and see team for me. I really like all the Bama, Georgia, A&M, LSU. I like better than South Carolina. I put them in the category, say, with Auburn. With just so much you want to see. Like they could knock off a couple of those top teams, no doubt. But when you look at this, can they get to 10-2, or is it more look like an 8-4? I lean towards the 8-4s. There
is the best player in America, Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver, Ohio State.
Yeah, I would lean that way. When you look at what he's capable of doing and having a relationship with Chip Kelly and just being able to talk to him about what he did off the field and hearing what guys, thought of him and the way he stepped into a senior-laden team that really needed him and just took everything in stride, I just thought is really, really special. So, yes, I believe he's the best player.
How many games does Maryland win?
The schedule, if you want, Penn State and Ohio State and all those, they would die for Maryland's schedule. But Maryland doesn't have the personnel of those teams.
Right.
So when you look at what they're up against, they got a decision to make at quarterback. You got the Martin kid from UCLA, and then you got Malik Washington, who's the local kid who looks absolutely fantastic. And Locks is going to get receivers. They went in the portal and got, I think, Farouk from Oklahoma, stud. But now you look at what they lost. They lost their starting quarterback, their starting running back, both tight ends, top defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 defensive backs all transferred out. Like it's really hard to assess what you have. And you go to Wisconsin for your first Big Ten game on the 20th. You got to be 3-0 going into that game, and that's a winnable game. And that's kind of where I think it goes, because then you get Washington, Nebraska coming in. You got to go out to UCLA. I'll say 6-6. They go to a bowl.
Wow.
It's the back end where you got Michigan. Like how beat up are you? It always feels like where they don't have depth on the lines of scrimmage, and they always had to play Penn State late, and even a Rutgers team that's going to be improved. Those teams are built from the line of scrimmage out, whereas Maryland, you watch them and it's like, wow, look at that skill guy, look at that skill guy. So a big step is the quarterback situation. It sounds like they want Malik to be the guy, but you got to be able to protect him, and that's the one thing I worry about. So 6-6, I believe, is the ceiling.
At Stanford Steve 82 on X on Twitter. He'll be a part of College Game Day once again, and that kicks off Saturday morning in Columbus, leading into Texas and Ohio State. That game's actually on Fox, but it's also going to be a special occasion, as it will be Lee Corso's final show. By the way, he mentioned Maryland. We have not talked a lot of Terps. We will talk a little bit more leading up to this weekend, maybe even on tomorrow's show. But they really do have one of those schedules that if they had, I think, a team from a couple of years ago with, a Leah Tungavailoa at quarterback, they don't have Ohio State and Penn State on the schedule this year. They open up with Florida Atlantic at home in College Park Saturday at noon. They're a 14.5-point favorite. Northern Illinois, and then Towson. And then they're at Wisconsin. They've got Washington, Nebraska at home, at UCLA, Indiana at home, at Rutgers, at Illinois. Illinois, in terms of the schedule, is the highest ranked team preseason they have on their schedule. They're ranked 12th. Michigan is on the schedule late in the year. Michigan's got that highly touted quarterback that basically, I think, Portnoy and some others paid for to leave LSU and go to Michigan. or renege on the LSU commitment, and then they close with Michigan State. Will be interesting to see if the Terps can put something together and what the quarterback situation looks like. Malik Washington, a 6'5", 230-pound, highly touted quarterback out of the area. We'll see how quickly he gets into the lineup as a true freshman. Looking forward to the Terp season. Looking forward to the opener on Saturday against FAU. All right, when we come back, we kind of lost track of the NFL Top 100 list. Well, Jaden made his appearance, but ESPN put out a Top 100 player list as well. Where did he land on that list? That and more, including an update on all of the cuts that Washington's made as they are moving down towards 53 by 4 p.m. today. Stay tuned for that. Our guy Max will have an update. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
That's right, Kevin. And here's what's happening on this Tuesday, August 26th. Diana Rossini and multiple reports across the NFL. The Commanders have been gauging multiple teams' interest in cornerback Noah Igbenogany. Some sources say Noah I was a 2020 Dolphins first-round pick and can provide secondary depth for teams looking to add to their cornerback room. But also, two of the biggest NFL holdouts ended yesterday. First, with wide receiver Terry McLaurin signing his 3-year, $96 million extension to remain in Washington. Then Trey Hendrickson and his camp came to a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals to play out this year with a $14 million pay bump. He's now set to make $30 million this season. Loads of movement around the NFL as we rapidly approach the 4 p.m. cut deadline. The Raiders have been quite active as they traded for Kenny Pickett last night and signed Amari Cooper to a one-year deal. Running back Audric Estime was waived by the Broncos, and the Giants have released quarterback Tommy DeVito. The Commanders have released linebacker Duke Riley, corners Asang Bassi and Bobby Price, D lineman Jalen Holmes, defensive end Cleland Farrell, defensive tackle Norrell Pollard, center Nick Harris, tackles Tyree Phillips and Foster Sorrell, and wide receivers Braylon Sanders, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Chris Moore. More on that throughout the day. Final cuts will be done at 4 p.m. The Nats, they lose to the Yankees by a score of 10-5. Tough night for Brad Lord as he goes 4 1/3 inning, giving up 7 runs on 8 hits. Cam Schlittler had a phenomenal night, throwing 6 scoreless innings, including 8 strikeouts. The Nats, they will reset versus the Yankees tonight. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
So that NFL top 100 list continues to get counted down. This is the list where the players vote on the best players in the NFL, 100 all the way down to 1. They have gotten into the top 20 now, and they are at 17. Dexter Lawrence was just revealed as the 17th best player in the NFL. We wondered where Jaden would land. Team-wise, Washington put more players into this top 100 list than they ever have since the list was created. We had Tunsil come in at 86, Bobby Wagner at 74, Frankie Louvu at 70, Terry at 52, and Jaden Daniels came in at number 21. It's easy to do the math to figure out which quarterbacks are left to go. Well, Jalen Hurts came in at 19, ahead of Jaden Daniels. Wouldn't be my choice, but ahead of him is Jalen Hurts, and there are another 4 quarterbacks to go, and that would be Burrow, Jackson, Mahomes, and Allen. So Jaden will end up being the 6th best quarterback in the league, according to the players. And just to give you an idea about the difference between where Jaden and Jalen Hurts reside and then kind of what's next on the list. After Jaden at 21, you have the next quarterback is at Baker Mayfield at 50. I'm sorry, CJ Stroud at 39, and then Baker Mayfield at 50. So big difference between where they have Jaden and then who the quarterback that would be number 7. Now, ESPN just put out a top 100 player list as well. This was a list compiled by NFL analysts and insiders at ESPN. And on this list, Terry came in. There were only 3 players on the list. Tunsil came in at 95. Terry came in at 74. And Jaden came in at 24. But Jaden came in as the 5th best quarterback in the league. They had Jalen Hurts much lower. Ahead of him were Burrow, Jackson, Allen, and Mahomes. Burrow was the 5th best player in the league. Jackson, the 4th best player. Allen, the 2nd. And Mahomes, the best player in the league. I know we've talked a lot about these lists, especially during the summer. As they were, coming out. I think that that's the list of quarterbacks. And I don't need to put Jaden super close to the top 5, and he's not here. He's at 24 on the list, and then the next quarterback is Burrow at 5. But, man, it'd be hard for me to take any other quarterback in the league over him. It really would. I was looking through this list, and there were a couple of players that didn't necessarily surprise me, but I was kind of glad to see on the list. I think one of the most underrated players in the league who's not super underrated anymore, and I think they will be an interesting team this upcoming season. But Trey McBride has quietly become one of the best tight ends in football. He comes in on this list at 44. I think he was pretty high on the players list as well. I will check that out. But he has developed very quietly into a top 2, top 3 tight end in football. He is that good at tight end. I think, Kelsey, obviously, Bowers, Kittle, but Kelsey now, kind of growing out of that. I would say Kittle, Bowers, and probably McBride. Sam Laporte is really good in Detroit. Kelsey, we'll see if he's got anything left in the tank this year. And then Terry, by the way, if you're wondering, on the ESPN list, let's see, 4, 8, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's 11th on the receiver list. And on the players list, based on what's left at wide receiver, he's probably going to be 13th. So, again, that's kind of where we've, I think a lot of us have always had him in that 10 to 14 range in the league. The ESPN list actually had Jefferson higher ranked than Chase. Pretty close. I think Jefferson is a route runner, maybe all-time great for sure. NFL cutting down to 53. There's no major surprises so far. You heard Max update the list. And again, Washington, according to reports, perhaps gauging interest in trying to trade cornerback Noah Igbinoghene. So we'll see if he ends up getting dealt. I would guess no more than a 5th round kind of selection. Remember, he was a former 1st round pick in this league by the Dallas Cowboys and has played some good football recently. Certainly played some good football for Washington and got a lot of action in the preseason. But right now, Washington feels comfortable. You heard Sean Springs. If you didn't, you can listen to it at theteam980.com or by downloading the Odyssey app. But Sean said he is confident that Trey Amos is going to be ready from the jump to start as one of the outside corners. He is super high on Trey Amos, the 2nd round pick from Ole Miss. So he likes Lattimore and Amos outside and Sanders still moving inside. If you trade Noah they've cut Bobby Price, but you've got certainly a guy like Carlin Vigors, who I think they liked. We'll see if he gets released. I would imagine if they're looking to trade Igbinoghene, that there's a really good chance that Vigors makes the team. Anyway. All right. Jonathan Jones, obviously, is a part of this group as well. All right. Done for the day. Back tomorrow. Chris up next.